right, it looks like we're live.
We are live.
All right. Good afternoon. We are May Center for Learning. My name is Heidi Schmidt. I am the Director of Community Engagement, and this is my partner in crime and colleague Stephanie Binkley, the May School Director. We're coming to you live this afternoon to let you know about some fantastic things happening here at May Center. For those of you who don't already know, May Center is the only organization in the state of New Mexico who specializes in teaching students with learning differences such as dyslexia and ADHD. And one of our passions is recognizing that early identification and intervention are the key to changing kids' lives. One thing that's happening today that's super exciting, first of all, is our 24-hour charity campaign, which is our big fundraiser to raise funds to support our Open Door Fund in getting our services to as many students in New Mexico as possible through our school, through our outreach programs, our grant-funded programs. So part of today we'll be asking you to donate toward making our programs the success that they have been. Before we dive in, I'd like to I'm going to let Stephanie talk for a few moments and invite her to introduce herself.
Yeah, I'm Stephanie Binkley, May School Director. And just before this, Heidi and I were talking a little bit and realizing we started at the May Center together at the same time in 2013. And I'll talk just a little bit about my road to get here and then let her share as well. And then we'll go into discussing what remote learning has looked like for us at May School, and then Heidi will be able to share a little bit about what that has looked like for our tutoring clients as well. So I went into college knowing that I wanted to be a special education teacher, and so this is a lifelong passion of mine. And all the worlds came together and fit just perfectly where I was able to come on at May Center the second year that it began. And I just am a firm believer in early identification and making sure students get the supports that they need as early as they can. And then personally, just knowing that my child needed services from birth to 3 and a bit beyond, which really supported her in becoming an independent, lovely individual child. And I really am grateful to all of the early intervention that supported her, also being a May Center student as well, was a great experience for her.
So like Stephanie said, I joined May Center in 2013 after they had been open for just 1 year, and I remember sitting down with Amy Miller and just being so excited and so impressed. I am the parent of a child with dyslexia, so all of the work that we do really is one of my passions and falls very near and dear to my heart. And so being a part of May Center, in every year it's new and different. Every year we just keep getting better and better, and I just can't think of a better place to work and a better cause to support. Before we dive into some of our practical stuff, Stephanie and I were joking that, in today's day and age of wearing masks and doing social distancing, we had to kind of reconfigure our plan for today. So we're jokingly saying that we have a whole world between us in creating appropriate safe space for us to interact. So we will just let you all know that we are observing that. A couple of things about our charity event today is, like I mentioned earlier, it's a 24-hour fundraiser. Any donation you do make today is tripled due to the generosity of some anonymous donors. So any amount helps, and so just please be generous if it calls to you. Stephanie and I both work in different parts of the May Center on different aspects, and May Center has so many different things going on. They're all wonderful. We have our school, which is an accredited pre-K through 8th grade school, and that's Stephanie's department. We have tutoring, that's my department. We have a diagnostic evaluation center where families who are maybe wondering about underlying causes to the difficulties that their children have can come, and myself or my fellow diagnostician Valerie, we can do an educational diagnostic evaluation to try to get to the root of some of those causes. We also do teacher training teacher preparation in our multisensory language program, grant-funded community outreach. We were a big part of a Senate bill that was passed last year pushing early identification for our youngsters to get screened and get the services they need. The list just goes on and on. So we are really proud of all the work that we do. But what I'd like to spend some time doing now is in March, like the rest of the world, May Center was unexpectedly thrown into a unique learning situation, which forced us to take our small group, one-on-one, customized, individualized teaching with our students into a distance format very quickly. And I would love to have Stephanie just talk a little bit about her experience and how she and the other people that came together made it the amazing spring that it was.
Thank you, Heidi. Yeah, I'd love to share with you about that experience. So for us, it really, as we were watching the worldwide trends of COVID and starting to have administrative discussions about how we would respond and what we would do to continue to educate our students, potentially online, it became clearer and clearer as we approached spring break that was going to become more of a reality. And so we not only reached out to our team here, but schools across the nation to be witnessing what plans were being made there. And really a huge gratitude to our admin team for their quick thinking and creative thinking, and to being able to really pivot to online learning just after spring break. So our students started the Tuesday right after spring break when they were to be coming back, and we quickly made the decision that we were going to be using Google Classroom and Google Meet. And then Tuesday after spring break started, we were all just as nervous as if it were going to be the first day of school all over again for students, for teachers, for admin. And, when we began the thought of distance learning, our thinking was, okay, we know skill maintenance is really important. Our students, over a summer can lose so much skill. And we thought, if this goes till the end of the year, we just don't want to be losing skill. So in the beginning of distance learning, we thought, this is all about skill maintenance and maintaining where they are. So whatever students were working on, just keep on reviewing. And then within the first week of distance learning, our amazing teachers and our students quickly showed us that they were ready for more. And, I had never had the opportunity to teach online prior to this, and realizing that there's actually more similarities to being online than differences. We talked to our teachers a lot about diagnostic teaching and being able to witness what's going on with a child, and how do you know when they're ready to move on to the next skill? What do you do if they're not ready? And what are you looking for signs? And we actually found that we could do that online just as we could in person. And so that really did help us, not only work on that skill maintenance, but grow it. Another thing we talk about at May Center is our multisensory approach to teaching. In the classroom, we have great Montessori tools that help us with that, and other multisensory teaching tools to make sure that we're addressing every learner and every style of learner. And we went, how are we going to do this online? And yes, while some of our younger students would go and grab rocks out of their yard to be their counters for math, and so using what was in the natural environment for a student, but we also found ways to use technology tools to our advantage. One of our current favorites is using Jamboard, and on a Jamboard is an app that can go, you can show while you're in Google Classroom, and one of our favorite tools to use there is with colored sticky notes. So in a classroom, we have colored foam squares to help students identify different sounds within a word, and you use different colors to show the different sounds. And we were able to use the sticky notes on the Jamboard to do that exact same strategy in the classroom, but doing it online. So cool. Yeah, that was really, it's been really fun for us to find those tools.
One of the things that became important in the tutoring role, and I'd love to have you talk a little bit more about, was the idea of the container and the structure and the predictability and the procedures that the teachers are so great at creating for the students. in an in-person environment. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that translating into the virtual world, and any feedback from teachers or families or students on how that perhaps continued to help the students feel supported.
Yeah, so predictability is one of the number one things that we make sure happens in all of our classes, so because that's when students feel supported and comfortable, and really, truly, again, within the first week of online learning, it became, oh, well, what we do in our C class, which is our sequential English education teaching, what we do in class in person happens in class online. So a teacher might start with a word attack drill, and then a phonological awareness drill, and then the C lesson. And all of that container was still there. Also setting up teacher and student expectations. So at the beginning of the year, we really teach, and some would say overteach, but we don't believe it's overteaching at all, but teaching routine. And our online classes started with just teaching the routine. One of the things that our students do is they know that they come into a class muted. We have many kids that are sensory sensitive, so if everybody's unmuted and everybody has background noise, that doesn't create a safe and comfortable learning environment for all of our students. So our students stay muted with their video on, but we created a system where if they type a 1, that was the same as raising their hand in class. And if and some teachers still had students raise their hand. And we just practiced those routines, and we practiced going to a Jamboard and practiced going to a document, so that it wasn't just expected that they knew it. I think a lot of times, from other families' experiences that I've listened to, it was just the frustration of learning how to navigate the classroom was very challenging. And so being able to teach that to the point of success to help grow independence was really big for us.
I had the opportunity to check in and just be a fly-on-the-wall observer in several of the classrooms really early on, really. And I was just so amazed at our students, and they felt so comfortable, and they really were able to tune in, and they were typing the 1 to raise their hand and ask the question. They were able to mute and unmute. And I just was, like I said, blown away by the respect that they offered each other as learners. And then, just again, the respect and the rapport between teacher and student was so clear to me, that I think that kind of speaks to your experience of being able to shift from skill maintenance into continuing along into exploring new skills so quickly, because the students had been set up for success in that container.
Yeah.
And that was just, absolutely a treat to see. For tutoring, I actually also was very pleasantly surprised with how easy, relatively, the transition was. Now, of course, I just was standing on the backs of giants. You and the admin team did all the work to get the infrastructure, the Google products up and running, and then I was able to extend that to my tutoring families and to tutors, and it really was special to me, because for me going forward, the disruption in children's lives and in families' lives going from school to no school so quickly, it was important to me to the families that wanted to continue tutoring to get that service up and running again as quickly as possible. And one of the reasons is, of course, the tutor-student relationship is so special. The consistency, the trust, just the love, just that goes between them to help get them through this uncertain time. And because the tutoring students are from all kinds of different schools all over the city, they had varying experiences in their own school to distance environment. And so the tutoring, twice a week or 3 times a week, or, whatever it was, became kind of that bridge, if you will, of, okay, I know I get to still see my favorite tutor, and I know what to expect. And so then I go back to the container, and just the relationship that became so important. And then one of the beautiful things that happened was, in addition to the families that were already current tutoring students and clients who have been in person transitioning to distance learning, I kept receiving calls for new families that I had not had the pleasure of meeting with in person and establishing a relationship with in person. Um, and again, I was blown away with the ability to do that in a virtual capacity.
Nice.
Connecting with families, talking through May Center, what do we do, getting them set up with a tutor, getting them going with tutoring completely virtually. There's people that I have never met in person, but I feel very connected with them. And that's where the distance learning piece for me, it became very much about the relationship. And I remember telling my tutors, my biggest goal is not for you to dive into a lesson and be on a certain page at a certain time. The most important thing for me is that child feels seen, the child feels heard, they feel safe. To be able to then dip their toe back into learning at a pace that works for them. And I really empowered my tutors to, or encouraged them to make that the priority. Build the relationship, build the container. Don't worry about the lesson until the other pieces are in place, because once those pieces are in place, the lessons will just come very, very naturally. And so I have not actually had the opportunity to do any online teaching, but the feedback that I've received is it's been a wonderful support, and I think it's kept people connected in a time that otherwise, we've all been in our homes for months on end.
That's wonderful. And Heidi, it reminds me, I want to give a plug for why we are here and doing part of this today.
Yes.
And as I listen to you talk about the connection and the importance of building that container and the trust, and as our mission of May Center is to impact learning for children across the state of New Mexico, and with this digital learning platform, we are actually able to meet students online from anywhere, really virtually anywhere that they have access to internet. And so we encourage you to go to maycenter.org and donate for our campaign that is happening for the next 24 hours. I would also like to talk a little bit about what you were saying with the container and the trust, and layer in some of the things that did happen this past spring with our school. And just as you were saying, yes, we were working on maintenance of skills, and we went to skill building. But the whole time, I want to reiterate, too, what you just said for our school side of things was very similar to tutoring, in that it was the social emotional well-being of the child that was at the forefront of all of this for us. We still wanted the children to be seen, to be heard, to receive, amazing teaching throughout all of this. But we also knew that having daily check-ins with students were going to be very important because of the number of stressors that families were experiencing at the time. And school can oftentimes be that place where a child can come and say, I'm having a rough day, or things aren't quite right. And so part of the morning meeting check-ins were, how are you feeling today? And something that you want to share with your classmates. But then we also realized one of the things that was missing, and particularly for our, really for all of our students, but I was thinking about the middle school students in particular, is just the dialogue that happens between classes and in the hallways. And we thought that is missing. Mm-hmm. So continuing those peer-to-peer relationships, they were happening within the classroom. But yes, I wanted to bring up something else that was added. So Amy Miller and Brett Luboyeski put together social clubs for our groups, and they were fantastic. So they were hosted by an adult. I will tell you my experience. My first social club that I hosted was a group of intermediate students, and it was an art club. So they came to talk about any of the art they've been creating, and some students chose to do art within the club. But it was an eye-opening experience, because while they had been 2 weeks online, they needed some support in how to interact with their friends online. Mm-hmm. And so I was not there to run the whole thing. It was really about the students being with each other. So I like to fade into the background. But for that very first one of the children said, one of the child said, oh, I've never chatted with a friend online. I don't know how to do this. And so I was there to say, oh, this is how you do this, and then I backed away, and then they took it from there. But it was wonderful to be able to provide a space, a safe space for our students to chat with each other online during that time to help promote that social emotional well-being for them.
Well, I think that is an example of taking, how we can make things the same and translate them well. But I'm curious to dive into a little bit your experience about, how has it been different, for administrators, for teachers, and for students, going from this in person on, into the distance.
I think even with the online social clubs, it's missing some of the in-person interactions that just happen day to day, the hallway conversations. But by and large, the teaching has been so similar. It has just been having a different way of thinking. I'll give another personal experience story. So today I am teaching one of the summer LEAP classes that we offer online. And I was teaching an algebra class this morning. And I knew it going into it. I was doing my weekly lesson plans last week, and I went, okay, I'm going into teaching graphing and teaching slope. How is this going to look online? And so I think one of the things that's different is even today, I thought I had it. I thought, oh, this is how I'm going to teach this. And then the student came up with a question for me, and I paused, and I took a breath, and I thought, okay, this is how I do it in person. And I'm not right next to the child. So how is this going to look and translate to the child by using one of the documents we had up online plus the whiteboard behind me? And so I think one of the differences is while teachers practice flexibility all the time in person or online, it's an added component of flexibility for the teaching and being okay with taking that pause to figure out how you're going to present something in a different way. So again, I think the core of the teaching, the content, everything is the same. It's just having to rethink how you might present it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kind of teaching on the fly. Exactly. You have a plan, yet we're flexible.
Right.
I just love hearing about all this because, like I said, I don't get into the classroom much, and whenever I do, I'm always just amazed and astounded, and I learn something new every single time I'm able to be in person or online. And I just love being a part of that, which leads me into kind of some of the next things I'd love to have you talk about, because I am not as directly connected with the school and curriculum and best practices and materials. Maybe you could talk us through, some of the best practices that you've kind of discovered, or, things that do work, don't work, in this environment that we've now been in for 3 months or so.
Great. Yeah, I think for us as a school, sticking to one platform was really important to us. And yes, we layer in different apps to support that one platform, but that students got to learn. I have my Gmail account, I have Google Classroom, and I go on Google Meet. All of that really helped it become seamless. Throughout the distance learning, we were having weekly meetings with teachers to really develop what are our best practices during this time, what is working and what is not working. And it was exciting to see some of this come together for our summer program. Our Director of Curriculum Instruction put together some documents that is best practices in teaching and then all the different subject areas. And that really helped us launch seamlessly into summer. But part of that became, we realized one of the things we needed to do is make our Google Classrooms look the same no matter what class you're in. So having topics and having the assignments underneath in an organized manner, because sometimes for students to find an assignment online, they have to scroll through quite a bit. And then small things like how do they find the Google Meet link, making sure that's always coming to the top of your classroom. And then for each one, then we put, these are some apps that really support teaching a number of skills.
Could you name and talk about some of the apps? I know
so I mentioned Jamboard, and we also found another app, and the name is not going to come to me, but it was for math. We are used to having access to many Montessori teaching tactile teaching tools, and so for our students it becomes really important for them to be able to see the math as they're working on it. And so there are math app tools that give a 10 bar, that give a ones unit, and students can actually manipulate them for themselves online to help with their addition, their subtraction, their multiplication, and division.
Well, and one that I think that I know is a great resource, and it translates in person and distance, is Learning Ally, or the idea of audiobooks. And so I know that, again, just why reinvent the wheel when you have colleagues who do a lot of the groundwork, and then I can just translate it into tutoring. I know that's been a piece for many families who may be trying to figure out how to support their child at home in their own school setting, outside of tutoring or in a distance format. Learning Ally, which is, it's a subscription service where the students can download books, and they're audiobooks essentially, but I think the added bonus, and please chime in, is that it downloads to like an electronic device, and it actually has the text on the screen. And then the app will highlight the words as they're being read. The speed's adjustable, so that students who may not have the ability to decode print beyond a certain level are given access to material that actually taps into their intellect and their potential. And I know that for many of my tutoring families, that was just, it opened up a whole new world. The students who were able to intellectually handle the content and challenge of chapter books, but who couldn't access them print-wise, were able to continue to stretch and grow, while we, were then able to separate and tutor and remediate skills at a more basic level. And that was just one of the ones that I know has been amazing, an amazing support.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Heidi, I have another question for you. As you started with new clients, and you have a lot of one-on-one interactions with the parents before the client starts in our tutoring center. Can you talk to the parents out there that may be wondering, what are the best ways I can support my child in learning online?
Well, the online piece, like I said, it's tricky, and I am not as well versed. But when I've talked to new parents, I always tease that I wear many different hats. I've worn the parent hat of a parent of a child with dyslexia, so I know in my heart of hearts the frustration that brings and everything that's surrounded with that. I've also been a general education teacher and a special education teacher and an educational diagnostician, so I try to view these things really from the lens of what's going to be in the best interest of the child. And so, the first thing, as far as supporting the children in a distance environment, is I think everyone needs to take a big exhale and just give themselves a break. I remind, parents, I remind my own children, we're in the middle of a very unique world situation, and everyone is just doing the best they can. And so my priorities are, again, what's in the best interest of the child, what is the best for their emotional well-being, for their mental health, for their stress levels. If learning is a part of that, then like the tutoring becomes a really important part. And for me, in interacting with the parents, the beauty of the tutoring that we do at May Center is that it's not in a box at all. Each child comes to me, each parent tells me the story, and we really try to figure out together what the top learning priorities should be and what's going to work best for them. In a regular situation, maybe we would recommend, a minimum of 2 hours of tutoring per week for an entire school year. Well, when I have a little first grader who's needing some math support or some reading support, and then they need to look at a camera to interact with the tutor, then I'm saying, well, let's really think about what is their stamina, what's going to really serve them. And of course, the live face is important, but maybe then it's just a half an hour, and maybe we're really just focusing on, one or two pieces of the learning rather than trying to, bite off more than we can chew. And so for parents who are trying to support their kids in a distance learning capacity and trying to, make sure there's no skill loss or anything like that, I've been saying a lot. Let's just take a breath and remember that that relationship with the tutor, if that provides, again, a container, some safety,
Mm-hmm.
something to look forward to, some consistency. And then in addition, there's some learning taking place.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. And I will just wrap that up by saying, I, when kids, and we know this, right? Like when we're under stress and then we're being asked to do task after task and we get flooded and we have anxiety, there's no learning happening anyway. And so if, for I'm saying this to myself as well as
Yeah.
if the child is feeling relaxed and receptive, then that's when the learning can happen. And so, but for the technical pieces,
Yeah.
I will pass that back
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah. Well, I'll talk briefly. I think I think that is important. So in a tutoring situation, what I really hear you saying is that it's identifying what pieces would be most effective and would it be math tutoring and choosing that, and then choosing the amount of time that a child could attend online and for it to be successful. And then we have, for our school families, we say sticking with a morning and an evening routine is really key for a child. Making sure that every family chooses a place in their home where distractions are limited. And background noise is limited. Mm-hmm. And that looks different for everyone. I had some students that worked, in their kitchens, and some worked in their living rooms. It was really based on what the family situation was, because many people had several people in the home at the same time being on video. And so those are two key things. And then we're also always looking for ways to build independence with the child. And so it's supporting the child up front with technology, making sure they have, paper and pencil and the materials they need, and then working with the teacher to know when is it time to start backing off to let that child have, the autonomy just with his or her classroom. So, support with the technology, obviously some academic support, but always looking towards that growth of how can we develop independence for this child, and working closely with the teacher and having a lot of communication there. So I see our time is coming to a close today, but I'd love to close with first a huge gratitude to the May Center organization and our team that did a fantastic job in responding to the necessity to go to online learning, and with the excitement that our digital learning is not going to come to a close. We know that even if we're optimistic that we'll be able to be in person in the fall due to our small class sizes of having classes between 6 and 8 students, but that digital learning will not stop for our students, knowing that this is a tool that they will need for lifelong learning. So we're excited to bring more of that into our classrooms. And in order for more children to access the specialized teaching and learning that happens at May Center, I encourage you to go to maycenter.org and donate today. And your donation will be matched triply. So.
Yeah. And if there are families who are interested in learning more about, our distance services, tutoring, myself, please reach out. Again, our contact information is at maycenter.org. I'm happy to talk to any of you about questions, possibilities. We will be doing the distance tutoring in the fall, like Stephanie mentioned, and we continue to make plans to continue it in a greater capacity. So thank you, Stephanie,
Thank you
for being here this afternoon. Have a wonderful afternoon. And again, donate. It's a great cause.
Have a good evening.